Alright, we're doing a speed build. Yeah, this is a speed build for my current household, the Batesons. And I think probably the first 3 episodes or so are going to be uploaded of me playing with them along with this speed build. So you'll get to know them along with the house, and like you'll see them moving into this house and their lives. A lot of people in their speed builds I've found will talk about the speed build itself, like what their decisions were, like thought process and that kind of thing, or like what they're doing, right? And I think that's all well and good, but I also think that you guys have eyes and can see what's happening. And unless something truly crazy happens, like I make some radical decisions, I'm just gonna tell you some stories about my life instead. And we'll see how that goes. And if that's super not liked and people want me to talk about the build instead, I can do that too. But yeah, so I got some stories for y'all. The first story, or the only, well, I mean, they're all travel stories. So I'm inspired mostly by the fact that it is winter break, and in order to get to my hometown, I had to travel because I do not live. The school that I go to is not in my hometown. And I consider myself to be a pretty seasoned traveler, right? Like, I have extended family and immediate family now that live not where I live for school, and not even in my hometown, right? Like, my extended family doesn't live in my hometown either. So ever since I was like a baby, basically, ever since I was like 2 or could fly, ever since I sprouted wings and could fly, ever since I could like be on a plane, I've been like traveling, like maybe taking like 4 planes like a year at least. So I feel like I know the ropes pretty well. I consider myself a pretty fast person to get through security, you know, that kind of thing. But for some reason, about a year ago, around this time, I think it was Thanksgiving rather than holiday, than winter break, I decided that I would go to the airport, right, in order to take a flight back home and not have any form of identification on me. So that was certainly a bold choice. That's about the nicest way that I can put it. It was a stupid choice, but yeah. Of course, I didn't realize this until I had already taken the hour-and-a-half bus ride from my school to the airport. At which point, even though I was an hour-and-a-half early for my flight, it would be impossible for me to go back and get my driver's license or passport and then come back again, even if I took like a cab that time, like both ways, and that would be super expensive. Or like so I could, I guess potentially at that point I could get like a friend to do that, to like take a cab and bring me my ID, but like I think the flight was at like 10:30 or so. Not that like my friends, especially at our young age, don't like go to bed early or anything, but like it's still kind of an imposition, right? Like it's gonna be an hour-and-a-half there, an hour-and-a-half back. It's like that's like their night is kind of shot at that point. So I'm standing there. My first instinct is to call my mother because I'm close with my mother, and was excited to see her and was thinking about her, and my father as well. But my mother, I know my mother's number better, so I called her. And she was like, "Oh, you're at the airport. That's great. Like, you're an hour-and-a-half early for your flight. Wonderful. We'll see you soon." And I'm like, "Yeah, so about that, don't have any identification on me." She's like really, like none. Like, you have no identification. That's really, like, how did you get on the bus, right? Because you have to have a bus pass, which is like your student ID works with your bus pass. I'm like, all right, so I have my student ID. Okay, fine. But it specifically says on the student ID, right? It's like your permit. It specifically says like this is not a valid form of identification. So that's shot. So I looked in the bag in like my purse that I thought I had my ID in, and I'm looking through it, and I have like a gift card to McDonald's, a debit card from when I was in high school that has my name on it though, so there's that, and oh, there was like a third thing. Oh, my health insurance card that also has my name on it, right? Okay, so now I have 3 things with my name on it. None of them are valid forms of identification, but I figure with like the 3 combined, you know, you can, it's like forging keys in League. If any of you guys play League, you'll understand that we'll make like forging key shard, like with the 3 key shards, I will make a key, right? We're doing some Yeah, anyways, I figured like the three pieces of identification would be like enough. Like, if I were trying to impersonate someone, I would not do it this poorly, right? Hopefully. And I wouldn't have like three random things like a debit card and like a health insurance thing and like a student ID, right? You know, hopefully, maybe. So there's, of course, a line for security. And I walk around it in order to talk to the lady at the front to explain to her my situation, right? Like, I get off the phone with my mom and I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna talk to the lady and see what can happen here. So I go to talk to her. Luckily, she's super, super sweet. I think there would have been a very different outcome if this lady had not been so nice and understanding and trusting of me. Because really, I could have been like a killer, right? Like, I could be a horrible person. Luckily for her and me that I'm not, but she was like, okay, we're gonna have to like have you step aside for now. I'm gonna go talk to like my supervisor or whatever, and see what we can do. So she leaves for a bit. She comes back. But of course, by this point, like, everyone has heard my predicament because I've explained it to her, and I was on the phone with my mother, like, not quite crying, but like very upset about this. And then she comes back and she's like, all right, so you can go through like our separate screening process. Is that all right? And I was like, yes, of course, that is perfectly fine. So I go through on the side and there's another lady there and she's like, I have to do like a full like pat down, like full body pat down. Do you want to do it here, like in front of literally everyone in security, or go to like a separate room and we can like do the body pat down there? And I'm like, I just don't care. Like, at this point, I really just want to get on my plane, get home, and I'm not like super self-conscious about being like semi-unclothed. I don't know. Anyways, so I was like, no, like, here is fine. It's fine. So that's what I should have said, right? Of course, that's what I was thinking in my mind. But because I was so nervous and like relieved at the same time, like, I had been like really stressed about the whole situation and then relieved that it was resolved, right? And I was going to be able to go and fly, that I decided I would resort to my slightly sexual sense of humor at the time. And so I said, no, I am a voyeuristic at heart. I just don't know the thought process there. This woman clearly was like not having it, like, too, like she was not having a good day, right? And here I come with my like special needs, as in like I need something different from these other people. Like, I'm not part of the normal. Oh gosh, like thinking I'm some special snowflake and trying to get on the flight, and oh no, why? I don't know why, but she was not very pleased, and we just sort of, there was like a moment where we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, we're both just gonna pretend that didn't happen, right? Yes, okay, we can move on, please. Yes, okay. Gosh. But I did end up flying home and it was fine, and on the way back I had my passport with me because that was at my house, and so I was able to get back with identification and everything's fine. And I've never since then flown without identification, because that's the kind of thing that when you do it once, you remember every time afterwards. I think my father once, on like a really big paper for his college, like he wrote the whole thing, right? And then his computer crashed and he hadn't saved, which is crazy if to write a whole paper without saving, first of all. But and it was like a 20 plus page thing. Like, it wasn't just like a 6-page assignment. And he was so upset that he almost like threw his computer and broke it. And he like forced himself to like leave and go out. And I think he ended up watching some movie. I think it would have been Silence of the Lambs or something, or Jagged Edge maybe. I don't know. Some movie about like a serial like cannibalistic murder. Basically, the moral of the story here is, if you think that your life is bad, go watch a movie about a serial cannibalistic murderer, and then you'll be like, you know, I don't got it. It's okay. Everything's gonna be all right. That's my advice for you. Oh gosh, that was such a poor decision, the flight thing. Don't fly without identification. Just always bring something. Goodness. So I think the reason why I thought of that story was because I've flew recently in order to get home for winter break, and it did not have exciting stories such as that, right? It was like a reasonable flying experience. But on the landing, like when we landed, when we were landing, we weren't landed yet. You know how you have like that popping like feeling in your ears, right? So I always experienced that, which is fine. But this time it was like my whole face was popping. Like my forehead, I had a splitting headache, which I don't ever get. I like never get headaches, luckily. And like my temples were like felt horrible. My eyes felt like they were gonna pop out, and like my jaw hurt, and my ears were also doing like the popping thing, but it would like they were just like in pain. Like I felt like I had an ear infection, which I don't know how I would know how that feels because I don't think I've ever had an ear infection either. But it was bad. It was like level 7 out of 10 in terms of pain, and only a 7 because I like discounted some points because I knew, or thought, at least hoped, that it would stop like once we landed. So like the whole time that I was feeling this, I was like, all right, well, at least we're landing, and once we get on the ground, I will no longer feel this pain, right? Because there won't be a change in altitude anymore, which is what causes the like ear popping. But I must have, to these people, looked like some crazy who had never flown before, because once we started like our descent, I immediately hunched down and assumed like the brace position because my whole face felt like it was going to explode. It was really unfortunate. And it was really unfortunate especially because the girl sitting next to me was really sweet and cute and nice, and I was talking to her and she thought I was a sane person until I did this. And in which case she was like, oh, never mind, never gonna interact with her again. And now I will never talk to her again, and it's okay. But like, oh gosh, it was just very painful. Have any of you experienced that before? I don't want to have that again. So if you have, please let me know how you stopped having that happen, or why that happened in the first place, so that I can make sure that doesn't happen again. I was really tired, but I don't think, like, I've been more sleep deprived than that on flights. So maybe I was dehydrated. I don't know. I remember my lips being pretty chapped, so maybe I just like hadn't drank enough water. But I usually try not to do that much because I like using the bathrooms on airplanes if I don't have to. So I try not to like be super hydrated going on to flights. But I don't know, man. I did make the funny realization though before my ears and face hurt, that the flight attendants, when they come to like give you they give you food, right, and then they come before you land to collect whatever trash you have, but they look so happy to be collecting your trash. Like I just really enjoy, I like picturing whatever the job description was for that, right? Like, we will pay you to smile and collect people's trash. Like, we need you to be happy. That is the job description, or part of the job description. I'm sure there's a lot more to do, like that flight attendants do. I know that there's a lot more that flight attendants do, but part of it is to just like smile while people hand you their trash, like genuinely smile as though this is the greatest gift that you've been given, and you are just amazed that this passenger knew. Like, how did you know? I love trash. I love empty plastic bottles. That's all that I've always wanted. I love wrappers from your candy. That is my favorite thing, from your pretzels and your like crappy airplane food. This is what I've needed. I've needed this in my life forever. How did you know? What a great early Christmas gift. Like, that kind of smile. And I was sort of amused by that. That was like my thought process right before this ear-splitting headache and face ache happened. Face ache, that's interesting. It's an interesting term. But gosh, that was just not a good time. Other travel stories. Oh, so there was this one time that I traveled after I had binge watched Criminal Minds, which is a great show, but basically it's like a police show that is like has mostly to do with like how like getting into the psyche of criminals, right, and imagining what their thought process is, like trying to figure out what kind of a person they are in order to figure out who did it, right. It's well done, and like the cast is great, acting is great, writing is good, that kind of thing. But it's pretty intense, right? And I had watched like seasons of it, like 2 or 3, like within a couple days, like that kind of binge watching. And so I think it must have been like on the line to security that I noticed this guy in front of me who was like talking to his another guy with him, who I think they were both business partners, but the guy who was talking was clearly like older and like had been in the practice, whatever practice it was, longer, right, than the other guy who kept on like agreeing with everything he said, like, so it was clear that the other guy was his superior. And the older guy was like bashing on this other guy at the firm or whatever business, like really hard, like it was kind of rude, like borderline rude. And at one point the younger guy like called him out on it, right? And he was like, "Oh no, like I don't think Kevin, let's say, is like that bad. Like he's all right." And then the older guy just like stops talking, just like completely stops talking. And like his demeanor changed completely after this, and it was kind of scary. And then the older guy was on my flight, and he was like at my gate, and the younger guy was too. They're both sitting there, and then they both went to the bathroom, and then only the older guy came back, not just like for a couple minutes, but like until we boarded the flight. So I was convinced that this older man had killed his younger business partner just because of this like one slight, right? And so I started in my notebook that I had with me to write down like all of the attributes of this older guy. Like there are like 3 pages in my notebook that are dedicated to like describing this man, like the way he speaks, like his vernacular, his like the way he appears, like his dress, his appearance, like any like thing to do like with his phone or like his shoes, just everything. There's like a full character sketch basically of this man in my journal, because I was convinced. And I even like followed the news afterwards to see if there had been like a murder committed at this hospital at this airport. I was convinced that this guy had killed him. But looks like we're nearing the end of the video, so this will be, or is already, by the time that this is posted, on my gallery. Origin ID is the same as my YouTube, so XanderLynn, and it's gonna be called Bateson Perch. It'll all be linked below, and here's some screenshots. Thanks for watching. Bye.